This episode is brought to you by yours truly, the realtor Matt Norn of Remax Bell Park Realty. For all of your real estate needs, call me at 860-428-6534. Your dreams are my job. Welcome to the Community Workbench. This is Matt Norn and Kyle Morrissey. We are your hosts of the #1 podcast in my basement. Every week, we bring you small businesses, entrepreneurs, community leaders, charities, and pretty much whoever we feel like talking to. And today, we feel like talking to Black Pond Brews founders, Cory Smith and Mike Teed. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We are having technical difficulties.
There we go. Got it.
There we go.
Much better.
All plugged in.
All set.
So, Cory, Mike, usually I start off with what your origin story is. So, Black Pond Brews, I noticed you guys have a thing on your Facebook that says small batch beer made by authentic swamp Yankees. I'm from a long line of Yankees, and now I know I'm a swamp Yankee as well. I looked it up. It's a rural person of stubborn, old-fashioned, frugal, English-speaking Yankee stock of good standing in the rural community, but usually possessing minimal formal education and little desire to augment it. And then I had to look up augment, which means
Keep it.
to make something greater by adding to it. So guys,
that's phenomenal.
Yeah. Bring us back to day one when it started.
So it really just started. Mike got a Mr. Beer kit for Christmas about 14 years ago or so, and he. So we're friends from high school. We were part of a big friend group, and he asked everybody in the friend group to come brew with him on his Mr. Beer kit, and I was the only one dumb enough to say yes.
That's great.
I was just happy to have somebody show up, for that. I was having a party afterwards, and I was like, if anybody wants to show up early, come by and brew beer. And Cory was like, yeah, heck yeah. So, we started home brewing, and then, we just kind of went crazy with it. We really fell in love with the process. We started home brewing all the time. Entered our beers into competition, started winning some awards, and then even got to the point where, basically we were producing all this beer and giving it away to family and friends and stuff like that, and realized, we're spending a lot of money giving away beer for free. Is there a way for us to, at the very least, recoup the cost of this, if not make a little bit of money? And so the concept was born, and so it took us a number of years to kind of get through the process of build out and stuff like that, and we originally opened on Furnace Street in Danielson, so we were there for a number of years. And then it was a couple years ago we got a new property, built out, and installed a much larger brew house and a kitchen, and I've been there for just about 2 years. So, but it'll actually be our 10-year anniversary this summer, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, nice, nice. Cool. So what is the difference between a kit and what you do? Because I was told that's a huge leap from kit to brewing beer on your own.
A kit is basically the supplier will put together the ingredients for you, and you brew based on their instructions, versus what we do is we construct our own recipes based off of our previous experience with brewing and using different ingredients and things like that. And so the real difference is just we put together the ingredients versus somebody else doing it for us.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting a Hello Fresh or one of those pre-made things. Yeah. Versus actually cooking the stuff on your own is the biggest difference, because they write the recipe for you. They tell you all the all the steps that you need to take in order to do it. You just need to basically execute it. And there are different levels too. There's some with what are called full extract ones, where it's really easy. So that Mr. Beer kit that we were talking about before, that's a really good intro one, and that it just comes with this little can of syrup. You just dump it in boiling water for about 10 minutes and then cool it down, dump it into the fermenter, and you're all set basically. Whereas what we do is a lot more complicated, and a lot of chemistry, a lot of biology, a a lot of technical knowledge and stuff like that, recipe development, all the rest of it. So a lot more intense. Certainly a lot more than I realized when we were first getting into it. That's for sure.
Now, like sourcing ingredients, so there was always a joke. Oh, I'm on a grain and barley diet. You know, I just drink beer all the time. It's vegan, I swear. Is that really what goes into a beer? I have no idea. Is it grain and barley or in? Like...
So barley is the main grain used in beer. You can also use wheat and rye and corn and oats and all of the above basically. But the barley is your main grain. That's the staple that you'll find in pretty much every beer. There are some exceptions, like gluten-free beers might use some alternatives and things like that. But barley is your workhorse. And then there's the hops. The hops are both a flavoring and an aroma agent, but they're also a preservative. They have antimicrobial properties that help preserve the beer, make it last longer on the shelf, stave off infection and contamination and things like that. And the other main ingredient would be your yeast. The yeast is kind of the powerhouse of the beer. So what we call when we refer to ourselves as brewers is we're basically making like sugary water with hops, and the yeast is the one that makes the beer. So they take all the sugars and turn them into alcohol and also a whole number of different flavor and aroma compounds. And then obviously the main ingredient is water. So that's kind of a given, but yeah.
Yeah. So now, like, if I'm like, you want to make a stout, like, is that like I've seen milk stouts, oatmeal stouts, and all different kinds. Like, where does that come into play?
Sure. So the stout uses a lot of roasted grains. That's where it gets its color and its flavor and its aroma. Whereas like a lager wouldn't really use heavily roasted grains. So it's kind of like if you think about like coffee, right? Coffee is roasted, and the roasting process is what makes the color and the flavors and the aromas in coffee. It's the same thing with grains. So for a stout, you use a lot of the non-roasted grains for your base, and that's what gives you the majority of your sugars to convert into alcohol. But the roasted grains are what give it the color and the characteristic appearance of being a darker colored beer.
Gotcha. And then like a porter, is that like a huge difference? Because to me that like kind of has the biggest flavor difference with all beers.
Yeah, they taste and look a little different, but the concept is the same. You're using roasted grains just in different amounts and different types of roasted grains. Again, I'll bring an analogy back to coffee. You have like light roast and dark roast and medium roast and blends and all that kind of stuff. And that's basically what you're looking at with those different types of darker beers, is just the blend of roasted and caramel grains and things like that.
Do you guys do your own roasting, or you purchase it roasted?
Yeah.
So can you buy it at different levels of roasting? So this is roasted for longer, so it gives you different flavoring.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, and the same goes for even like your base grains. You have like a Pilsner malt, which is extremely light, and then you have maybe like a Vienna malt, which is quite a bit darker, but they're all like, relatively speaking, a lighter roast. Yeah.
Wow. So like, what's the like overall time? Like when you start a beer, are they all different? Do they have to age? Is that a thing? Do they?
Yeah. There's a lot of variability. I mean, there's as many beer styles as there are dishes that you can cook. Right. So the majority of beers are like an IPA. I mean, that's the most popular craft beer style by country mile, and the turnaround time is typically about 2 to 3 weeks. Your brew day is 6 to 8 hours, but the like I said before, the yeast is your real workhorse, and it kind of all depends on what the yeast does. And to give it time to ferment and mature and settle out and develop all the flavors it needs to, while also not being like full of like chunks and things like that, you got to give it about 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh wow.
But then there are some beers, like There are some beers it's like almost like a wine. If you do like a really traditional barrel aged sour beer, you'd be looking at 6 months, a year, 2 years, or and then there's blending where you can blend a 1 year and a 3 year and all that kind of stuff. So you can like really get into the weeds on that kind of stuff. But the majority of the beer that you drink from grain to glass is probably like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that.
And then like there's barrel aged beer, barrel aged in bourbon barrels. Is that like something you guys do, or is that like you do that? Oh wow.
Yeah, it's not like a huge part of what we do, but we've done a number of different barrel aged beers. The most recent one that we did was actually, you mentioned Swamp Yankee. That is,
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, cheers to that. Yeah, cheers to that, Swamp Yankee. Woo! Yeah, so that the last one that we did, it's a Belgian quad, which is a stronger Belgian beer, quite dark. It uses Belgian candy sugar, European continental hops, Belgian yeast, and we aged that one in a rum barrel. Yeah, I mean you can.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So you can do the world is your oyster when it comes to beer. Basically, there's not really, especially in America, there's not really any strict guidelines on what you can do. You just go whatever
Thank
pops
God.
in your head, you do.
Wow. Is there any dangers of like, I don't know, not boiling to a certain point or
Oh, yeah.
So I did see a show where a guy was doing a home brew and he had his beers in his garage and they all started blowing their tops. Is that like is that a real thing?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's Breaking Bad, by the way.
Yeah.
I saw that show.
Yes,
every-
'cause it's so real.
Yeah. There's some reality.
That's
in
why
there.
I asked if it was real.
Yeah, I mean, during Prohibition, you hear of explosions and stills and things like that, and that's a little bit different because they were distilling alcohol, but yeah, I mean, a fermentation can go pretty crazy and make a huge mess, and if so. One of the major components outside of flavor compounds and alcohol that yeast produces is carbon dioxide, and you need to have a place to expel the carbon dioxide from the vessel that the beer is in, and if that gets clogged or whatever, then you can have a really big problem. If you've seen any homebrew videos, you might see like a huge explosion on somebody's ceiling, or it's all over the floor and things like that, and that's usually due to something clogging and not letting that CO2 gas off.
Yeah, there's a video going around right now of I don't know if he was a brewer or not, and
Yeah.
he opened the bottom and it shoots him across the room.
Really?
Yeah. He opens up a valve and it just blows out.
Probably 12 people sent me that video.
You're in the beer loop.
I will say one common thing that I have heard over the years too is when we talk about explosions, we don't mean like literal like bomb explosion or something like that.
Fire.
It's yeah.
Like
so CO2 is a non-flammable gas. It's just like a pop or it'll just cover. I don't know how many homebrew stories I've heard. People are like, oh, I put it in my closet and I walked in the next day and all my clothes and everything were all covered in stuff or whatever. That's the worst that's going to happen. It's not going to be dramatic in that aspect. So. I remember hearing some story years ago where it was like, oh, do you guys worry? Because I heard some guy he did a 5-gallon homebrew thing and it blew all the windows out of the first floor of his house. And I was like, I don't think he was making beer, man. There's no way he was making
sounds
beer.
like a meth
That
thing.
sounds like
That's Breaking Bad.
Yeah, that's yeah. So, no, beer is that's the worst you're gonna kind of experience even on the homebrew level. So,
Yeah. Wow. And does that obviously that must take a toll on the equipment if that happens, like something like that, or no?
it's not
Pretty
usually
tough?
too bad. I mean, like with homebrew stuff, a lot of people use either they're called glass carboys or just even plastic buckets. And the most common issue that creates with that is this is a little thing called an airlock, because when the fermentation is happening, you want the CO2 to be released, but you don't want anything to get in, meaning like any kind of bacteria or other strands of yeast or anything that's kind of floating around. So the airlock is a one-way release valve essentially. And what happens most of the time when these quote unquote explosions or whatever you want to call them occur, the airlock gets clogged, and then it'll pop the airlock out basically, and it'll spray. Or like I remember.
So is that what happened in that video that guy?
That one was a little bit different. That guy, the brewer there, I don't know who he is or what brewery it was. I don't want to throw him under the bus or anything.
Yeah,
but he made a very large mistake that you see quite a bit with staff that's either untrained or inexperienced homebrewers turned pro, where he ended up removing a piece of equipment from the fermentation tank that was behind his valve. And your valve is, where if you're trying to get access to the beer to take a sample or carbonate or whatever it is, that's your access point. And if you remove that valve, you're in really big trouble. And what he should have done, this is, any brewers out there that might be listening to this, if you come across a situation like that, you want to take an open valve, put it at the port that's popping and leaking, attach your tri-clamp or whatever, that's the thing that attaches the valve to the tank, and attach it on and then close it. Because if you try to put a closed valve or anything that's closed on it, there's so much pressure, especially in a tank that big. That was a big tank. And so you want to be able to let the pressure release while you're putting your safety valve back on, and then close your valve. So any amateurs looking to turn pro, that's my advice to you. That guy obviously didn't learn that trick, but most people that have learned that trick don't make that mistake. That's the other part of it too. So
That makes sense.
Yeah, if you're learning those tricks late in the game,
yeah.
you're just playing with
That's a
bigger
good trick
toys at
if
that point, right?
if your staff makes that mistake and you haven't maybe given them the information that they need, or if they forgot, or if they're new or whatever. But most people that know that trick won't make that mistake.
That being said, it is kind of a thing of, in some ways, a badge of honor amongst the brewing community, where there's a lot of photos where one stage, and we won't bore you with the logistics of it, but when you're adding hops into the fermenter, it has a tendency of blowing up, and or
That's a mistake I've made a number of times.
Yes, that's where I'm going with this. I know, because I've seen it, and it happens to everybody. But that's another thing too, where you'll dump hops into the fermenter, and it'll just kind of shoot out of the top part of the tank at you.
Like Mentos and Coke kind of shootout?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Really good way to describe it. Yeah, exactly. And so there's like I said, almost like a badge of honor of like a photo of you covered in hops head to toe, basically, because it'll just like cascade out of the top of the fermenter. And so it's like, it happened to me finally.
So is there a photo of both of you guys with that happening in
No,
Black Pond?
we don't let those photos.
That's when you go and you change very quickly. Try not to tell too many people. He's sneaky, so
And you guys brew in the back of the new location as well?
Yep.
Because you brewed at the other location too. It was just much smaller, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was. It was still separated, but it was a lot smaller. I mean, our entire hey dogs, our entire facility at our old location was like smaller than our current tap room.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your place before you got to it?
The
The
building
one-
itself, the new building.
Yeah, the one that you're in.
The new building was more recently was the Stephen Swift furniture manufacturing. So they made like high end like coffee tables and rocking chairs and stuff like that. So they did a lot of stuff in that. It's a company that's based out of Nantucket, but they had a couple different facilities that they were producing stuff. But they hadn't produced anything there in a while. They just didn't have staffing or whatever the issue was, and all the rest of it. Prior to that, it was a machine shop called Del Pesco's, and what I've been led to believe is that they made the rings for magnifying glasses.
Okay.
So that was like their kind of claim to fame, which is kind of a weird like talk about an industry that's gone basically at this point.
Yeah.
You had a whole building dedicated to just making that one thing, right?
Wow.
But that was what it was originally. So, but it was built in the mid 50s. I think it was 1954 was when it was built originally. So,
And it had been empty since about 2006.
yeah,
Oh,
something
wow.
like that.
So
yeah.
it sat empty for a number of years before we got in there.
Did you guys have to renovate it a lot?
No.
No? Is that a total
was-
gut job?
It was a
Yeah,
it was a
gut
nightmare.
job, yeah.
It was a nightmare. Yeah. We poured all new concrete floors. We put in like 80 yards of concrete. with new trench drains and the whole nine. You guys would appreciate it too, actually, in the sense that being a furniture manufacturing, there was all this industrial planers and all these forms and all
That
this
was
crazy
all
stuff.
still there.
It was still there, but the day before we closed on the property,
They took them.
they showed up with a box truck and emptied the whole place, and all of us were so upset because we were like, oh my god, we could have used all that stuff.
And then sold it.
They used it and then sold it. Yeah, get it out of here. No, it's a wild place. Yeah, we had to do a complete renovation from head to toe on that place. Even like the electrical and everything. Like the story that I like to tell with that is that I remember at one point in what is now our tap room, I was chasing wires and stuff like that, and I pulled down some ceiling, and there was a junction box that was they had bought like 4-inch screws to hold the plate. There were so many wires going into the same junction box that that they couldn't close it normally, so they bought extra long screws to basically just wedge it all up, and the whole thing was completely filled with sawdust. So I remember like looking up at it and be like, oh my god, let's like turn the panel off. Like,
Wow.
so it was in rough shape, to say the least. So,
Wow. What did you do before you were a beer brewer?
believe it or not, I was an archaeologist actually. So
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So I did that for a while. Went to school for it, and then
Overseas or in this country?
both. Yeah. So
What's there to discover in this country?
a lot of stuff. People have been living here for like tens of thousands of years. Man. I mean, especially around here, there's a lot of Native American stuff, and I've done projects in Pomfret and all the rest of that kind of
cool.
stuff. So there's a lot of stuff floating around underneath our feet that we don't really realize. So, but yeah, no, I mean, also, just as far as a background, like, my great grandfather taught me a lot about like the carpentry stuff and construction and that kind of stuff too. So we and all of us did a really great job of like doing most of the work ourselves in that spot
Nice.
too. So
Yeah.
oftentimes, if you drove by on 101, you saw our cars out there at insane hours, basically, of us, running wires or doing X and Y and Z to get it done ourselves. So
Now you had to do that to the first location too, right? You had to renovate it to an extent.
not nearly to the extent that we had to do the second spot. It was a much bigger entity, but yeah, we did have to do both. So we were excited for it in a lot of ways. It was a lot of work, but it's pretty crazy seeing it now, especially.
Right. Yeah. And the fact that just doing all that just kind of gives you that sense of pride, like you really built everything from the ground up, or from the beer kit up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially seeing photos and stuff like that of like the before and the after of all these different areas. It is a little bit crazy for us in some ways because we know what it was like and the amount of effort and time and dedication that it took to get the spot to where it is now. And people just wander in and they just kind of see it as is and like, oh, must have been really nice for you guys to move in. And like, but it was like when we were basically up at 4 a.m. going like, oh my god, I just something bad happens or something, like, oh my god, this is so terrible, but there is a lot of pride that comes with that as a result.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What did you do before, Corey?
Not a whole lot. No, I
Good for you. Retired first,
Yeah.
then went to work. I like that
I
plan.
did it backwards. I'm the Benjamin Button jobs, physical labor. No, I after college, I started a job at the Center of Hope in Southbridge. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but
I've heard of it, for sure.
It's a day program for adults with disabilities, but they also do a lot of employment programs and youth services and things like that, which was really what I did there. Was finding meaningful work for people with disabilities and also, kids that had, gotten in trouble or whatever and trying to get them back on the right track and things like that. So I did that for a while we were still open, or oh my God. While we were getting started, there was probably about like a 3 or 4 year overlap of me working that full-time job, and Mike worked a full-time job too, and actually for a while in a similar field.
I did.
And then I think it was 2017 is when I fully left. I had gone part-time, and then I fully committed to working at the brewery full-time back in 2017. So
Is that how you guys met? Working in a similar
No.
field? No.
No, it was high school we met.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so I'm originally from Brooklyn, actually.
Okay.
So my parents still live up on like 169
Yeah.
area. Corey's from Woodstock, and I went to obviously we both went to Woodstock Academy, but I went up there. I like, and of course, like all my friends, they all went to Killingley for the most part, and so I was like, oh, I got to meet a bunch of new people. I don't know what's
Yeah.
gonna happen. What is this gonna be like or whatever? So went to Woodstock, and then I met this weirdo and a bunch of my other friends. Yeah, so we've known each other since then, and yeah, obviously like kept in contact and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And even still, like our one of our other close friends, Harris, shout out to Harris, he helps us out a ton with our social media stuff. Same kind of thing. So like it's one of the weird things I think with us as well is like our friend group has extended even past, from high school even on. So that's
Yeah.
how we met. Yeah.
I have friends from high school, and when I tell people that, they're like, "You still hang out with people from high school?" Like that's the anomaly. Like that's weird, and yeah,
It is surprising that they still hang out
With-
with my school.
Even in just the 20 minutes I've been here, I'm surprised by that.
Wait, I thought you were the complimenter.
Yeah, that was pre-show.
Yeah, yeah,
Now that we're live.
Now that we're live.
That's really funny.
So if anyone's wondering, before we were live, we were having a nice chat.
It was really fun.
Now they've all turned on me.
Yeah, they literally were complimenting each other back and forth.
Yeah.
It's getting a little awkward, especially with the eye contact. It was the really worrisome part, but
Kyle's good at getting our guests to storm against me. So
It's not hard.
camaraderie builder over there.
We are one and the same. So now, are you guys the master brewers?
So I'm the head brewer.
I guess master brewer, you have to take like do you have
Yeah,
to certifications?
Yeah, so yeah, there are a lot of people that will call themselves a master brewer, brewmaster, or whatever, and most brewers are relatively humble. Not all, but some.
the good ones.
Yeah, and but you're right. Like master brewer is like something that you achieve through rigorous education and things like that. And my education is just through the school hard knocks, baby.
There is a formal certification to be a brewmaster, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty extensive. There's probably I couldn't tell you how many, but not many people that could legitimately call themselves master.
And that's
brewers.
just for
Oh, wow.
for clout, like a badge of honor. Like,
In
I mean, I guess
some
if you're
ways,
looking for
yeah.
a job in that industry for bigger, like that's high up on the totem pole for people that have breweries that would want a brewmaster. But does it warrant more money and a salary? Those types of things.
I think it opens up avenues for you for like speaking roles, educational roles. It is like largely academic, I would say. You don't have to be a master brewer to make amazing beer,
Right.
But if you want those alternatives or opportunities outside of just making beer, then that is something that you would probably want to strive for. Yeah.
Yeah, that and people that have that qualification tend to work for the really big breweries.
Yeah.
So like the
Right.
macro, the AB InBevs, like the Budweisers and the Miller Coors and that kind of stuff. They usually require somebody who's at the helm to have that kind of designations.
Right. They're not even brewing. They're like at the top overseeing everybody.
Yeah, which is I mean a science in and of itself. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people are kind of surprised to hear is that we as brewers will often say those big companies are the best brewers in the planet, like definitively. I mean, Budweiser, for example, it's an insane program. They basically, because they're so large, they actually can't source the same amount of ingredients to have the beer taste the same. So every single batch is a little bit different, but they're still able to execute and make that beer taste exactly the same. Wow. So imagine again, like trying to cook a dish, like make, the example I use often is like a pizza, making a cheese pizza, and every single time you make it, it's with wildly different ingredients and it still tastes exactly the same. Like it's an insane thing.
Wow. Yeah.
For them
I
to
wouldn't have
do.
even thought of that.
And they even to ensure quality control, they actually freeze cans, and I think it dates back to like the 60s or something like that. It's like a really old but they have like a special freezer that they keep cans in to preserve them, and then every once in a while they'll pull them out from like like the 60s or 70s or 80s or whatever else like that. Crack open one of these cans to make sure that the Budweiser today tastes exactly like it did even way back in the day, down to like almost the molecular level practically. So. In a lot of ways, like that's what that qualification will get you, is the ability to hone in on the science to the point that you can execute that. So,
I will say, when Anheuser-Busch got bought out, I felt like it changed, like a Bud Light changed in flavor, and like I've had other people say, "Oh, it gives me headaches now" and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's like a real thing, because I don't know. I've never gotten that kind of a. I haven't tested it that much where I'm getting headaches. Oh, now I get headaches more.
yeah.
But like I was at somebody's house and they had an old Bud Light in the back of the fridge from like before they got bought out. And I was like, this is different than the stuff I just bought the other day, So
Yeah,
like,
the tough thing about that is like how much can you attribute it to just the fact that it's like really old and who knows how it's been kept and all that kind of stuff. So it almost certainly tasted different. You're not wrong about that, but the reason why might be because it was left in the back of a fridge, or maybe maybe it was left in the back of a Subaru for 3 months.
I was alluding to the fact that it tasted better.
It tasted
the older
better.
stuff was better than
Yeah.
the new stuff. And I've had friends be like, "This is skunked beer." It's like, oh yeah, it is kind of off tasting.
Yeah.
Just like, but like, yeah, I don't know. It was just, but I get what you're saying. That's wild that they're that big that they can't source the same ingredients or.
Yeah, and they brew worldwide. They have
Yeah.
breweries in South America and Asia and Europe, and they're all making a product that, if you went around the world and tried it, you're tasting it from the most local place that produces it, and it still tastes like a Budweiser.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
My cousin drank a Budweiser. I was like 4 years old in
How many?
2004.
4 years. Okay.
In 2002, and it was green. So I'm not sure how long you're supposed to keep them, but it was green and definitely bad.
Dead. Don't drink green beer unless it's.
I was gonna say, was it
St.
a
Patrick's
St.
Day is
Patrick's Day
coming up.
special?
We're gonna have green beer on St. Patrick's Day, so drink that green beer. But if it ain't supposed to be green,
No,
Wow.
it was Bud heavy. Yeah, I remember that so vividly. It was pretty funny, actually.
And he drank it.
Yeah, I mean, he was newly 21. So.
Oh, good.
He developed a lazy eye at the end of it, but
Let's turn him off. of
He's
beer
still
for
weird
tonight.
today. But,
never been the same, really. Now that we think about it.
so you guys will have St. Patty's Day specials. It's on the weekend this year on
Yeah.
Sunday. So
Yeah. Yeah, so our big event is going to be on Saturday, obviously. Green beer, corned beef Reubens, and what else we got going on?
Doing Irish poutines. That'll be like so we actually, one of our bigger items, we have poutine, but we'll use Irish bangers, so like sausages.
Yeah.
And then corned beef flatbread, and I think that's it to start.
Kitty bombs.
Kitty
so
bombs,
if
yeah.
you ever had an Irish car bomb,
yeah.
I have not.
so we have a beer called Mr. Kitty, named after our former brewery cat.
R.I.P.
Turned angel about a year ago. And it's similar to an Irish car bomb. Instead of Guinness, it's with the Mr. Kitty Milk Stout. So we'll be doing that for the day. Oh boy.
You started talking about a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa. We can't have that.
Hey, it's enough of that.
So
Yeah,
what why do they call it a milk stout? Do you actually use milk in it?
So you use lactose, which is the milk sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the benefit, or what you're going for when you use lactose in a stout, is lactose is not fermentable by conventional brewer's yeast. So it leaves behind a little bit of sweetness because it doesn't turn into alcohol, and it provides like a creamier mouthfeel and things like that. But there's not actual milk in it. It's like a dehydrated milk powder, basically, is what we use to make milk stout.
Gotcha. And you mentioned the food. So, like, you guys now have a full kitchen with food. You also have a full bar. Talk to us about that, like the progression of, because you started out with just beer, right?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and So when we moved to the new location, that was one of the considerations that we had, was the fact that and even actually at the old location, we did have liquor. Because at least with the licensing at the time, it was such that we could have both and not have to have food. It subsequently changed over the past couple of years, so you do have to have, I think it's 2 hot meals per day in order to have a full restaurant liquor license, meaning that you can have the stuff that we have here, anything that's outside of the state of Connecticut. There's another one that you can do more limited options, but either way. We had seen like a lot of positivity there, because as you guys are, we're big whiskey nerds. We love it, and yeah, yeah. And so it was one of those things that it was another way. There's a lot of parity between like the liquor, craft liquors and craft beer. A lot of the similar people are into both kind of things. And so the whole concept was to offer additional products. One of the other things that we were talking about off air too, that we try and do, is offer as many products as we can to other people. I think a lot of people think that because we're a brewery, we only serve beer, and we try to abide by what I call the rule of 4, which is we have, if you have 4 people that are planning to go out, 3 of them are really into beer or craft beer or anything else like that, but then the 4th person either can't drink beer or doesn't like beer, and so the group of 4 is going to make the decision about where they go on that one person. They're not going to make it on the other 3, because they're not going to,
Right,
what kind
okay.
of set of weird friends do you have that are like, yeah, sorry,
They're not friends.
yeah, exactly. You got to twiddle your thumbs while we enjoy a beer, staring at you awkwardly. No, that's not how that works. So we try and offer products to people that can, enjoy across the board, and so that was always kind of a consideration. And then as far as the food is concerned, where we're located, so we're on 101 in Dayville, heading towards Rhode Island from the Killenly Commons area, and just where that's located, there isn't really a food option immediately available. So one of the nice things about our old location, we were across the street from New York Pizza Company. People could wander over across the street, grab a pizza, come back and sit down.
Right.
We don't have that luxury at this new spot, and so we were really lucky that our buddy Luke was able to come in and had quite a bit of restaurant experience to give us some tips and help us kind of work through a lot of how to get everything kind of set up and all the rest of that stuff. So that way we could offer some extra stuff for people, because that's another big part of it too. And we're definitely seeing, as far as an industry is concerned, people want more of an experience. So for many years, the paradigm was that you try and visit as many different breweries as you could over the course of the day. So you try and hit 2 or 3 and order a flight at each one.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, not fun for
And
us.
then Uber was developed.
Yeah. Such a coincidence, right?
Jesus.
Instead now it's people want to spend time at a place and have a bite to eat and try some beers and whatever else that they do. So we're just trying to basically adapt to what our consumers want for us or want from us. So, but it's been great. It's been kind of fun for us in a lot of ways to play around with a new medium. There's a lot of confluence, I think, between brewing and cooking.
Yeah.
I bring up that analogy all the time. So coming up with new recipes and playing around with stuff is
Plus you can
fun part.
pair foods together with the beer, even
Yep.
with liquor on holidays like St. Patty's Day and those types of things that help you guys generate people coming in the door for certain things,
Yeah, and we can utilize our beer in our recipes for food too, and that's something that we're focusing on a lot lately is how can we incorporate our beer and make something a little unique that nobody else can offer, because obviously nobody else can offer what we can offer when it comes to using our beer in our food.
Right, right.
You guys make a beer bread with your food, with your beer?
We haven't done that yet. We're not really in the baking business at this point. But that's not to say that we won't do it at some point. It's definitely something that we've talked about. It's just there's so much other stuff that you're focusing on. Whenever we decide to do something, we decide to do it to the best that we can.
Right.
And if we don't feel that we have either the equipment or the knowledge to do something, then we'd be doing our customers a disservice by just putting out a poor product that we just thought would be cool in concept, but didn't have a really good plan to execute. So.
Yeah, that's not like us here at the community workbench. Like,
Hopefully they listen.
Yep. Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yeah, we screwed up tonight, but all right. We put out a good product.
You guys are killing it.
He's back
Well,
to
thank you.
complimenting.
There we go.
It's a roller coaster with me, baby.
So if you guys don't do beer bread, then you talked about catering. You guys do catering.
Yeah. So we it's something we've been kind of goofing around with. And actually, real quick before I forget, to part of it too, we got to do a little bit better advertising in some ways. But we do actually use some of our beer in the stuff that we already use. So one of the things that Mark, one of the other owners, has done a great job with is we actually use Moves, which is our flagship IPA, in making pickles. So the pickles that you get on all of
okay.
our sandwiches have beer in them,
Nice.
or in part of the process. Same thing with our beer cheese. So if you order our pretzel bites, one of the options you can get is like a spicy beer cheese, and we use Machu Picchu or jalapeno Saison back there. That's one of the things, one of the ingredients that we use in that. But we're definitely exploring a little bit more in that capacity. But as far as catering is concerned, yeah, we've dipped our toe in the water. Over the past year and a half, 2 years, something like that, in that area, and there's definitely a need for it. So quick shout out to Evergreen Farms in Dayville, our friends Mike and Jess over there. Phenomenal venue. I don't know if you guys have been over there or heard of it or anything else like that, but they it's like it's on 101, like right by the Killing Middle School. But they did a phenomenal job of renovating. It was originally an old chicken coop, and then they've turned it into this gorgeous wedding venue.
Oh, wow.
So we've worked with them quite a bit since they've been open for just about a year now, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you guys, when you cater, are you allowed to serve beer?
Yeah.
Is that part of the license? You're allowed to do that if the venue allows it?
Yeah. So we have full licensing, both either just for alcohol or just for food, or both.
Oh.
So we can kind of do. That was like one of the big things. So when they updated the licensing in 2019, as I kind of quickly referenced earlier, that was one of the nice new stipulations for the new stuff, was that it allowed us to do offsite catering for liquor and whatever else like that. So we can even do we can carry other products, whether it be any of this stuff or whatever else, like liquor and wine and whatever. So it's been pretty cool. So definitely a different avenue and something to kind of play around with and have some fun with. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's I know what you meant before about like having so many things to do, and then you just got to take it one at a time. We are trying to eventually open up a online merch store for
Oh, cool.
the podcast, and it's just like we just got to take it one step at a time, because it's like, all right, now all of this was learned. I had no experience or any education, as you can all tell.
No, you're doing great.
It's like, all right, Google how to do that.
We did Google a lot.
And YouTube saved us. And
just say YouTube University.
yeah, exactly. And then so now we're like, all right, well, we could possibly have so many. We're talking with a couple of guys like JG Creations about making merch and being able to, like, when you order it, the order would go to him or whatever, and then produce it. And
Don't give away all the details.
all right. But I get what you're saying, like, because we thought of that almost like second episode, and my wife goes, hold on. Just relax for a minute.
And it can
And I was
feel.
like, all right, thank you for reeling me back in.
It can feel like a chicken egg situation, right? Like, you need merchandise to sell the product, but you also need the product to sell the merchandise.
Right.
Right.
So it's merchandise is really tough. That's it.
That was well said. That's all. That was well said. That was perfect.
I mean, it seems like most places carry it, so there's stuff there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really generate a ton. It's just there, and if somebody buys it, great, and it's out in the wild, then somebody else might see it and ask them, and that's pretty much the extent,
it kind of gives off a certain level of professionalism when you have
Yeah, for
merch
sure.
and like if you have trucks lettered and all that stuff. It's like, oh wow, they're big.
Yeah,
it could
yeah.
be just somebody's
They're big.
basement.
And it sounds like what
People are wearing their
you're looking at is smart for you, because all of your merch sales would be coming online,
Yeah.
right? And if you have somebody that it just pipelines right to them and they could just make it to order, then that's ideal, because you don't want to have to like pick up a bunch of merchandise
Right.
and keep the inventory, have it take up space in your house, and then then you sell through.
We have no experience.
Yeah,
with
no experience. Yeah, none at all.
not a little PTSD right now.
Yeah. But and then you sell like all of your largest sell, but none of your small sell, and like it's a whole thing.
What? They weren't outfitting kids with brewery shirts? That's so weird.
Yeah, there's not a lot of skinny people that are big craft beer.
That sounds like a valuable lesson there.
Yeah. We're still learning it, to be honest with you. It sounds like we've learned it, but we haven't.
No. It's a day-to-day thing.
Every
Hey,
day.
here's the Swamp Yankees.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Learning everything the hard way in the swamps.
So what does the future hold for you guys? Are you thinking multiple locations, larger distribution? I know you're definitely in most of these local liquor stores. How far is that reach? Right
Yeah, so I mean, we're still figuring out the new spot, I think, is the short version of that story. And we're definitely still, honing in that aspect. I mean, it takes a long time, especially for, people that haven't officially run a restaurant. There has been a learning curve, and figuring that out on day to day, week to week, month to month operations has been it's a lot, and effectively too, because we're running 3 businesses simultaneously. If you think about it,
Yeah.
we're running our tap room retail operation, we're running our kitchen, and then we're also running wholesale stuff. So as far as wholesale is concerned, we've been working with a distributor called Craft Beer Guild of CT for just shy of a year now. I think it was like right around just about a year. And getting beer across the states, that's something that we're we're continuing to kind of play around with and just see how the market goes on that aspect. But I think the big thing for the future is just like figuring out, our new spot. One of the things that was kind of a big transition for us in a lot of ways is the old location was so small, and what we like to liken it to is Cheers. The show where it's like at 7:00 on a Thursday, I knew who was walking in that door, and they're going to order a mug of this and whatever. And one of the cool things about the new spot is that we've had this whole opened up a whole new crew of people that we never would have met before, and still talking to our staff and stuff like that. We we have a good chunk of new people come in every day, basically. So just kind of adapting and learning, and the market's changing a lot. I think that's one of the hardest things with craft beer, just in general too. We're a very fast-paced, changing environment. So
Every year it's something different.
Yeah.
So trying to just keep up with that is it's a full-time job and then some.
sure.
So
Yeah, I think too, if you throw too many changes at your customers, then each change you put out doesn't get enough of recognition, and then you lose out on that, right? And so if you let things fester for longer, like menu items, all changes like that, then you'll get more people. But
I
if
think you wanted to say manifest. I don't think you wanted to say fester.
no, I wanted to say fester.
Well, that would be wrong.
It was on his word of the day calendar. Right?
Word of the day, yeah. You have a non-word of the day calendar, don't you?
Yeah. Which word can I lose today? Never use again.
So if that distributor is across the whole state and only the state, right? So you can't distribute outside of it?
Yeah, so laws are such where you, with the alcohol industry, you have to sign on technically by county.
Okay.
And so the distributor that we have signed up for all the counties of Connecticut. Once you get into other markets, as far as like other states and stuff like that, it does get pretty complicated with like other distributors and stuff like that. It's been something that's been on our radar for a long time. I think the biggest one has always been like Rhode Island, just because a good chunk of our customers are from Rhode Island. But
You could throw a rock from our place
Yeah,
to Rhode Island,
yeah.
basically. Yeah.
so it's something we've been considering for a long time and gone back and forth about. But that is definitely one of the things that we're
So you guys could be like down on the New York border.
I mean, yeah, actually,
In theory, right?
Yeah, where was the? We got tagged. What was it? Down in like Norwalk. or
Maybe
something?
Norwalk, yeah. We've had a couple different places in Norwalk. So one thing that we did maybe about a year ago, maybe a little less, was we use best trivia of Connecticut for our weekly trivia night on Thursdays, 7 o'clock. If you're interested,
There you go.
and
Shameless
plug.
plug.
little plug there. You know, it's
Seamless.
great. It's perfect. It's if you love trivia, you'll love it.
Questions are easy.
Yeah. But they work with the Blind Rhino in Norwalk, and they set up like a tap takeover, and we did a tap takeover for some trivia event that they were doing. I wish I could remember more about it. I just remember that they bought our beer.
Nice.
That's
For
the most
those that
important
don't
part
know,
of
a
it.
tap takeover is when you guys they only sell your beer the whole night.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Not necessarily only our beer, but usually like a bar will give you one tap, but on a tap takeover event, maybe they'll give you 3 taps or 4 taps or maybe all of them, but it can be, it's just like more than what they would typically do.
You become the
Just
highlight of the
yeah,
of
yeah.
the
They're
event.
highlighting you for the night,
Yeah.
or the weekend or whatever.
So are you guys in any restaurants around here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Oh.
quite a few. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the ones that.
Last time I was at the Stomping Ground, we had our Fully Stoked Coffee Brown Ale. That was a beer that we did with the Fully Stoked Coffee Company, which is just starting out in Sterling.
Really good.
By a guy named Jeff Goodnow. I'm sorry, I'm playing around. I'm a fiddler.
It's okay.
I'm a fiddler. Give me one of those like spinny things. Yeah. Here we go. Now we got
Give
stuff
him
for me
his
to play
toys.
with. Perfect. Keep them coming.
He was that kid in high school that etched his name into it.
Yeah,
into
yeah.
The table, so watch out. He's gonna be
Keep 'em
Cory. He's
coming.
gonna be written into the
Keep 'em
into the
coming.
hardwood here.
I will ruin this entire room. But yeah, so we did that coffee brown ale with Jeff Goodnow, who has been in the brewing industry for
Long time.
probably 25 years or so, and he's actually from Woodstock, where I'm from. And he worked at Victory Brewing and started up a number of different breweries throughout the East Coast. And now he's getting into the coffee roasting business out of Sterling. And he helped us create the best coffee beer I've ever had.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it because we made it. I'm saying it because he helped us make it, because that beer is phenomenal. And so... Yeah, last time I was at the Stomping Ground, they had that on tap. That was maybe,
I
like,
think
2
I've had it
years
at the
ago.
Stomping
Yeah.
Grounds myself. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Stomp. We're on and off tap at Black Dog in Putnam.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of the Putnam places were on tap here and there. 4Gs, because
Beautiful.
they're friends of ours.
They serve beer super cold. I don't know why.
4Gs?
Or what? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's like comes right out of their cooler or something. Maybe their
Oh, yeah.
tap line's only about 5 inches. It's unbelievably
and yeah, that's what it
cold.
is. I actually clean their tap lines.
Oh yeah. It's
yeah,
like
they've
very
got a-
this thing. I'm like,
they got-
man, this is cold beer.
They got a good setup. It's a little overkill, but they got a good setup there, and yeah, it's.
Can you overkill when it comes to quality of beer?
Of course you can't. Of course you can't. Why would I say such a thing?
So when you say on and off tap, it's just like a rotation, or they've just run out of the kegs that you guys sold to them, or
So one of the things in the craft beer market for quite some time is that the consumer, of which also I am one, obviously, and so is Cory and all the rest of us. Excuse me. We like variety, and we like rotation and things being different and playing around with flavors and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So the model that a lot of bars and restaurants and even package stores to some degree like to utilize is the idea of high levels of rotation. So that way, you don't, back in the day, it was like you had your Bud Light tap, you had your, Bud Heavy tap, and maybe one other here or there. But especially with craft beer, people want to try new things and play around with stuff. So having the most successful, places, a good example is like the Stomping Ground. They're constantly changing, and it's a way to invite people back and say, oh, because every time you go, they're going to have something wildly different that you may not have tried before. So it's a really good way to, sample different things and all the rest of it. So what we're finding is that the bars and restaurants have picked up on that concept, and it's something that even as a brewery we do in our tap room. Like, we constantly change what we have available and rotate beers and all the rest of that kind of stuff, because that's what the consumer wants.
Yeah.
So as a result, that's why, so we're usually in the rotation. So some people will ask me and ask us about, like, oh, well, why don't I see you on tap, like, every single spot, every single place? And the answer that I try to give is basically the high degree of likelihood that we either have a full keg in their cooler in the basement, or they have an empty keg in their just outside, waiting, or something to that effect. Not to say that we're on tap every place. We're always open, so do another little shameless plug. If you want us to be on tap somewhere, let us know, and we'll try our best to get our beer out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we've been doing this a long time. So I mean, we've been either on tap quite a bit, or rotated in and out with a lot of places in the area. So
Yeah, most of the liquor stores I've been to around here, there's never a shortage of Black Pond Brewery. And we have it here in our beer fridge all the time. So
much appreciated, guys.
Keep it coming.
yeah, and super excited to see where you guys go. It's been amazing to watch you guys, develop through the 2 locations and whatnot. It's been cool, and now to hear the story firsthand, it's been pretty awesome. Like distribution end of it now, do you have to deliver, or is there shipping? Like, how does that even work? Is that through a middleman probably?
Basically, yeah. So this is a whole thing too. Distribution and just beer in general, let alone within Connecticut or any other states. But basically, you sell. So we're a 3-tier state is what it's referred to as, meaning that you have 3 different tiers. You have the manufacturer, the distributor, and then the retailer. And so we're kind of a in-between state in the sense that as craft breweries, we can hold a self-distribution license, meaning that we can operate at 2 out of the 3, well, actually 3 out of the 3 tiers, in the sense that we also have a retail operation with our tap room, right? So that can be kind of a, semi-controversial thing on the state level sometimes, because they're like, all right, well, you're operating outside of the 3-tier system because you can, self-distribute your beer, you can sell it on site, and you're manufacturing it, right? So
And you're catering.
And we're catering. we're just doing.
You got it.
Doing everything.
Cornering it.
So one of the things that we're like in constant conversation about is working with our distributor and stuff like that. But so the way that it works with our distributor and most other distributors, so we sell large volumes of our beer to them. Usually it's somewhere between like 20 and 30% that they take as a result. But then once they pick it up, we get to do this. In theory. In theory.
We still gotta do some of the selling, but once we make the sale, they send it to them basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And full and plug too. Like overall, we have our gripes, but there is a place. I mean, I gotta say, like, so we did self distribution for a very, very long time, and I don't know how many times like we've schlepped down half barrel kegs, which are like how many pounds, like 200 pounds or something like that.
About 180 pounds.
Yeah.
Down a flight of
Yeah, they're
stairs.
not
Rickety
they're not
flight
light.
of stairs.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
remember.
I want that in the basement.
Yeah, no, no.
Cool. I'm gonna leave it up here.
Yeah. I still
That's the
think.
only one you sell. Then.
On location.
Yeah, we just crack open the just pour it right out of it. Yeah, no, I still think one of the worst ones was I did a delivery to a restaurant where they had a water pipe burst in their kitchen, and their walk-in cooler was in the basement, along with that's where their floor drain was. And so all the cooks are, everybody's like cooking and doing whatever, and I walked in with 2 logs, so they're 10 gallons of beer, wander in, and I'm like, in like a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of water that's like everywhere. I'm like, are you guys still open? What's going on? They're like, oh no, it's fine. Yeah, we just had a water pipe burst. Like, we're still cooking, whatever. I was like, okay. And then in order to get down to the basement, all the water was cascading down the flight of stairs that I had to walk down.
That's a
with two-
water feature. People pay extra to have tables next to that.
For some reason that like drums up like images from like Home Alone. Where he's like pouring the water down the stairs.
We're the wet bandits. We're the wet bandits.
He's pouring the water down the stairs and it's all slippery and then he falls and then he steps on a nail or whatever. That's basically what self-distribution is. Yeah, Home Alone.
It's Home Alone.
Yeah, if you've ever
Electrocuted.
seen that movie, I don't know. It's a new movie. You might not have seen it yet. But.
So yeah, so where I'm going with this is I'm not upset that I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Gotcha.
like
It's
that's
where it's
one of the
going,
nice
but-
things
Yeah.
about it is they have people that are able to do that for us. So
Does this mean, like you said, you had to sell it first? Does that mean you still go to like different liquor stores and push the product or whatever?
Yeah, it's like a combination. I mean, we do a lot of the sales ourselves. Their salespeople are on one of their tasks is selling the products that they carry as well. So they do some of the sales as well. But if you really want to like get your product out there and get
Right.
people buying it, you have to sell your product on your own.
Right.
because ultimately, like we're the best salespeople.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as
Nobody's gonna know more about it than we do. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
But then again, like getting down, we were just talking about Norwalk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We sell stuff in like Litchfield and all over the place. Like we're not getting out there with any regularity, So
Yeah.
it's a collaboration in a lot of ways.
Litchfield, Connecticut. You can't get there from here. It's like no direct route.
Well, see, and they have raggies anyway. So I don't know if you've heard that before. So
Raggies.
So
we
we
Swamp
have.
Yankee of Litchfield.
So I don't know. We actually haven't talked about that before. I don't know if there's like some unspoken. Are Raggies and Swamp Yankees united? Are we against each other? Or how does that work?
I think probably united. United in spirit, but not in functionality, because there's no good way to get to.
True.
Like, if you've ever gone to the northwest corner of Connecticut, it's impossible to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. You
Impossible
can't
to
get there from here.
You can't get there. Yeah.
At least we have 395.
Yeah.
That's
We have a highway. They have Route 8.
Yeah. It's like going
dude.
Maine to Vermont. It's
Yeah.
like there's like
Yeah,
you're on
yeah.
like a 1 and 2 lane highway,
Yeah.
and like you can go 50, but it's still gonna take
Yeah.
you 4 hours.
Now watch, all of our sales in Litchfield are gonna plummet. Like screw these
love
Black Pond
Litchfield.
guys.
We love you, Litchfield.
I don't think we have viewers out in Litchfield.
Right. I was gonna say, speaking of Yankees, like I have had friends that think that 395 is the center of the universe. I'm like, there's
Yeah.
more than that.
For us, it is. Yeah. I love 395. You ever travel to you ever go to New York or Pennsylvania or
Unfortunately,
whatever,
yes, I've been out
and it's
that
like
way.
it's always hell, and then you get to 395 and you're like, oh. It's like when you really have to pee, and you get to 395, you're like, oh.
Thank God.
Thank God, because it doesn't matter what time. There's never traffic.
Knock on wood.
Unless there's construction or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but coming off
395 is not relief
95, it doesn't even compare. Even if there is traffic.
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
even go-
It's a relief valve. I love 395.
As somebody who
I'll go to bat for it for the rest of my life. I'm all for
Well, I don't think they're getting rid of it. So
Well,
that's a good point.
I don't know. Budget cuts all austerity.
I will say, as somebody who lived in Woodstock and worked in Niantic, I traveled that
Spent some time.
That time I did a lot of windshield time on 395, staring at the windshield. It definitely smooth travel is way better than it kind of cringe when you got to go on 84 or any of those.
Yeah.
Or when you actually get off at 395 onto 95, it's only where I worked was only 2 exits more. But
Yeah.
just it was always a fiasco. Tons of cars. So I get it. Let's talk about how you guys do events with another competing brewery. I love that. You guys are pretty well united, it seems.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think we spend a lot of time talking about with people outside of our industry that is very kind of antithetical, meaning opposite to how businesses run in most capacities, right?
Thanks for explaining that, because I had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
I'm anti, and that's bad.
Sorry, I should have
So he's
exactly
against
where
the
his
second
brain
part of that word, but
worn my glasses.
Antithetical mean?
Excuse me, guys. Antithetical. Is that your word of the day? So I'm providing multiple
festering.
functions.
we use
Festering,
fester.
yeah.
I thought swamp Yankee was the word of the day.
Actually, can we,
I'm not
That's two
augmenting
words.
this.
actually, can we combine? Can we do antithetical festering and call it a beer? That'd be a beer name.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll work a little working title.
Working title.
But no.
You got to include augment in the description.
Yeah. Augmented.
Augmented pale ale.
I love it. No, so it's a weird thing in our industries that we're like very supportive of one another, and we work really well together. And it's very different for most other businesses where so we even have like a Facebook group and of a lot of the breweries across the state where somebody will post like, hey, does anybody have like an extra bag of grain that I can buy off you, or does anybody have any extra hops? I miscalculated and I thought I had X and I only have Y, or my pump died and I need something to get me over the hump, kind of a thing. So we all work together in a way, and so because our kind of philosophy is such that in our industry that rising tides raise all ships, right? And so and we've been really blessed too over the years by talking to other brewers. Like one of our biggest influences, I would say, is David Woolner from Willimantic Brewing Company.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
They're awesome.
Who really paved the way for all of Connecticut beer, number one, but number two on a much lesser scale, us.
Yeah.
And he gave us so much knowledge and information and stuff like that over the years, and spent so much time working with us to develop our brand and all the rest of it, that we feel like we got number one, give back a little bit, but also like work with each other. So and that's just like part of our industry, is like doing collaborations. And I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit more, Cory, or not, but
No, just kind of, reiterating what you said. We're like close friends with like all the other breweries in our area. We obviously have a common interest, and it's we find that it's better when we're all doing well than when only one of us is doing well. I think it's easier to do well when you have a robust market for the product that you're selling, not just your product, but the product in general. So there's a lot of like cross promotion and speaking back to Mike's point about like helping each other out, like Justin from Bare Hands texted me this morning. He's like, hey, do you have X, Y, and Z? I'm running low on this. And I was like, no, not today, but it has worked out many times in the past, mostly me asking him for stuff. That's, a lot more than
You're the Kramer of the group.
I am definitely the Kramer of the group. Hey, buddy. It's just like really collaborative. I mean, actually, like we have a collaboration beer on tap at both our location and at Bare Hands of a double IPA that we did together. And part of it was we're looking at this new hop product, which is like kind of like basically it's like a concentrate of hops rather than just using the hop flowers. It's like a liquid concentrate, and neither of us had really used that particular product very much, so we thought, hey, like this is a good way to kind of spread the cost out, to experiment with this new ingredient, rather than either one of us taking it on and putting it into an entire batch. It's like we can kind of
And then you get that
and
multiple feedback from
exactly.
both markets.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really beneficial for and we're not the only ones that do it. Everybody does it,
that's
So
I mean, if you do the I mean, Sam Adams was like the first craft microbrewery, right? And if you do their tour, they talk about they have a whole fund that helps fund all these essentially competitors, but not really. They just want to grow the beer industry. And I think from a customer perspective, it looks way better when there's collaboration and everybody's in it together than you guys saying, oh, no, don't go there. Or, in any business, not just beer. So to see a collaboration, then see a collaboration with a beer that's on tap at both, just intrigues people to come and try it and come and really enjoy it. And, craft brew drinkers are not like townies that go to the bar to drink Coors Light every night, right? they like to go experience beer at different craft breweries.
Right. Right.
So they're going to hop around regardless, right? So
Yeah.
you might as well try and support everybody to where they're going to hop around too, you know?
Yeah, never mind even the beer, like the atmospheres that
Yeah.
are different to me. I love the experience of the different atmospheres of each, brewery. Like my cousins are Taylor Brook.
Oh, okay.
And,
Awesome, yeah.
And yeah, when they did the winery, I was working for Woodstock Builders when we built their first
Okay.
part of the winery. And, that was basically when they went quote unquote public.
Yeah.
My cousin Dick was making it out of the basement. And then now Ralph, has set up the brewery there. So, and I want to say they were thinking distillery too at some point because
They
they
were,
were
yeah.
already doing their own brandy and a few other things. And you guys are serving different liquors as well. So I mean, do you think distilling would be part of your future, or are you gonna stay away from that?
So we've discussed different avenues. We'll say we're gonna be coy about it. No, it's I think the big thing is that there's definitely a market. In some ways, the distillation and the craft distillation market is now where craft beer was like 5 years ago, something like that. Like it's still a really kind of burgeoning industry. Everybody's trying to get in on it in some way, shape, or form, and there's been an explosion of brands and products and things like that. And it's been really cool to see that whole like kind of culture develop in the same way as craft beer did. It's something that we've seen. So like one of the things that we've done even at the old location and then kind of transitioned to the new location is do like whiskey dinners and stuff like that too.
Oh,
so
okay.
we do different events over the course of the year where we'll work with either local or national or international distilleries to showcase their products, pair the food with it, so that way they can really kind of get a full sense of what that product is and what they're trying to get across, flavor wise and all the rest of it. So one of the nice things about it is that it has been a really nice avenue for us to kind of play around to do something different. And the other thing too, like full disclosure, and I feel for Cory too in a lot of ways. Like when you're, it's the same for like our kitchen staff as it is for our brewer, Cory, in the sense that like if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, if you're making, which is what we have to do a lot of the time just to, keep up with demand with certain things, it can get kind of stale just because like imagine making the same
Right.
dish repeatedly and it back to front and because you wrote it and then whatever, it can get a little boring. And one of the nice things about one of the things that we've done historically is kind of play around with different flavors and it can be experimental. Hence we have a jalapeno saison as one of our flagship
Why don't you
beers.
pass me one of them? Yeah.
Oh, he's
I
going
haven't
Machu
had a
Picchu.
Machu Picchu.
This is a perfect. Thank you
Yeah.
guys for bringing
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
3-4 pass.
Yeah. Where's the camera?
We're gonna drink-
Hey, camera.
We're gonna drink half of mine, so
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
I haven't
fan-
drank a Machu Picchu in ages, but I thought it would be appropriate for tonight. I'm gonna pour it out so everybody can see how
Dun, dun,
beautiful.
dun.
Oh
It
my
is a beautiful
God!
beer.
Would you just look at it?
just look at
Would
it.
you just look at
Come
it?
up a little higher. there.
Fresh
Yeah.
jalapenos in every batch. This is actually this past summer we grew our own jalapenos. We've actually done it for a number of years, but this was like the most we've ever done. And so for a number of batches, we're able to use our own garden grown jalapenos until we run out, and then we have to start sourcing them back from our supplier. But this is made with our own jalapenos. And yeah, this
Good
is
way to sell it, though.
not our top selling
Right.
beer, but it's definitely our best known beer.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of like jalapeno beers and a lot of sours and kind of like I feel like a number of years ago just crafting your own beer took off. Like everybody had a home brewer, and then like IPAs became the thing for a long time, and then I feel like it kind of morphed into sours. Like that was a big deal for a while, or still is. I play poker, and there's like almost all of them will drink sours. I'm not a sour guy. I don't really like them, but they all like them, and I'm like, all right.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, the first time I ever had a sour beer was in Belgium, and I just was random. I didn't know anything about beer, and I just was picking something off a menu. And the bartender brought it over, and he put it down in front of me. I took a sip, and I was like, "Oh my god, this beer is so unbelievably sour! Like, what is wrong? Like, this beer is there's something wrong
They
with
did
this
something
beer."
wrong with
Yeah. And so I called the bartender over, and I was like, "I'm sorry, sir. Like, I don't mean to be like this person, but like, this beer, there's something wrong
This
with
beer is sour.
Yeah, and he's like, and he just leaned in, and this will be burned into my memory for the rest of my life. He just leaned in, and looked at me and was like, "It's supposed to be that way," and then just walked away. I was like, I'm just gonna go crawl in the bathroom, and I don't even I can't even look at this guy anymore. Like, it's so embarrassed. But it is, sours are, and that's, we were talking a little bit earlier about the volatility, maybe, or whatever, however you want to describe it, of the craft beer market and how things change so much. That's part of it, yeah. There's all kinds of stuff that are cropping up, new styles. I mean, case in point, the fact that I'm drinking a New England style IPA, when we got started, that didn't even exist
Basically
as a style.
non-existent. Yeah.
Super smooth.
Yeah, it's like fruit juice.
Very
you
good.
know?
Very good.
And totally different brewing technique and all the rest of it. So we had to do like a lot of, just research and figuring out like how to make them and all the rest of it. It was
A lot of trial and error. You end up pitching a lot of material to the
Isn't it all trial
to the
and
drain.
error? When you're coming up with new stuff, isn't it all trial and error? Like new recipes, you're like, oh, I want to try this, and works out or it doesn't. Do you guys can you make small batches of things to test?
Yeah, so a good example of that, of a beer that we actually have on right now that we just released maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, is a cotton candy sour called Fluff Up the Jam.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
well, another plug, another shameless plug.
There you go. That's what this place is for.
I think Corey's making scratches in the table like you were talking about earlier.
Every time I plug something, I plug something in. Charging my phone right now. But yeah, so that was one that we had talked about doing, and we want to release it for over the summer to like coincide with fair season. So we did a smaller batch of it to just kind of test out the recipe, see what it tastes like, see what it looks like. One of the things that I found, so like cotton candy is like pink and blue, right?
Yeah.
The pink is strawberry and the blue is blue raspberry. So we use real strawberries. We don't use blue raspberries because
They're not
there's
real.
no such thing. There's no such thing.
What?
But,
Like the pink lemonades industry.
right, yeah. Wow, where do you get these pink lemons from? But there is like a blue raspberry flavoring that I used, and what ended up happening was when I pulled a sample of it, the beer was like bright blue, and I wasn't really expecting that because I put like 4 ounces into a 100-gallon batch.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't even expect it to change the color at all.
Well, this brings back to dominant colors from like elementary
Yeah,
school, right?
exactly. And
It runs deep.
so I pulled the sample, and I was like, oh, this thing is bright blue. That's awesome. Like, that's going to stand out. Like, when people order it, other people are going to see that and go, I got to try that, because what other beer that you are drinking is going to be blue.
They're going to think it's a Hawaiian drink.
Yeah.
Like a
And-
mixed drink.
So I was like pretty pumped about it because I wasn't expecting it. And then when I packaged it, those first couple kegs were bright blue. And then what actually happened was all the like coloring like settled to the bottom of the tank. So the last like couple kegs were just normal beer color. And so I had to like reblend them back together, and the beer ended up like being like blue green at the end. So I was like, all right, now I know for like when we actually do it, it's blend it a little bit better and make it bluer.
Now, did it hold the flavor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and it's been like nobody cares. Like everybody loves it, but just like for the aesthetic, like now I know.
Right,
It's like that's why we do a small batch of it for something like that's so like it's a little bit out of the comfort zone, you know. So that's why you do a small batch of it, and that's the thing that you pick up. Yeah, now I know, and you don't know what you don't know until you do it.
Yeah.
So
At least you can sell it and make money.
oh yeah, yeah,
Like it's not a complete loss. Like you're like, this is
for
miserable.
sure.
You can sell it
for
people
sure, and
like
it still has that visual appeal when somebody sees it ordered at the bar and they maybe like passed over it on the menu or whatever. They see somebody else ordering and they go, "Oh, I have to try that."
They're filling
know?
the glasses from the last kegs. You should just put a dollop of like food coloring in the
Yeah,
bottom of
yeah,
the glass.
yeah.
A couple of drips.
Yeah.
There you go. So like when you say a small batch, like how many gallons is that?
So
No idea.
small batch for us is about 100 gallons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is there like a, I don't know, like a tasting corner or room where like you would let the public taste these
Yeah, we want you to.
experiments?
You can taste in the corner,
Yeah,
looking into the corner.
Yeah,
I would just think
you
that
can
there's-
order it from the tap and then stand in the corner.
Oh, so you just automatically put it on tap?
Unless there's
let
like
it
something
ride.
like seriously wrong with it that we can't serve it. Yeah, we just put it on tap.
Oh,
and,
cool.
Let
Okay.
the feedback come.
Yeah.
Because we're confident enough with most of our beers that if we want to try something, we know that it's going to be good enough to serve. What it comes down to is like whether or not people are buying it and liking it.
Right,
and
like
things
how
that,
fast
you know?
it depletes.
So like, one beer that I really like making that nobody else cares about is smoked beer. And
Oh, okay.
like I said, like I love Scotch and
Yeah.
I love smoking
That
Scotch.
smoky feeler.
And
there's
there's like there's a niche for smoked beers, but it's not a big it's a niche. And so we'll do like a small batch of that just to like scratch the itch, like Mike was saying about when you get stagnant and you get tired of making the same stuff over and over again, you want to make the stuff that you want to make. Well, we can do a small batch of it, and if it lasts a couple months because 10% of the people really like it and the other 10%, the other 90% won't even try it, but at least like you get to satisfy the real like beer nerds.
Yeah.
And you get to satisfy yourself, and at the end of the day, it's a good product.
Yeah.
And
And I think one of the things that we've done well with for a long time is that we've developed a little bit of a reputation for being that brewery that, especially like a lot of breweries for the past like 5-6 years, something like that, have been like you wander in, they have 10 taps. 6 of them are double IPAs, 3 of them are single IPAs, and 1 of them is a pale ale. And so one of the things that because we're ultimately came into the industry as beer nerds, we wanted to kind of continue that, philosophy and that, I don't know how you want to describe it, but trajectory or whatever.
F around and find out.
Basically, yeah. And I will say too.
Let me just translate that to all the other swamp Yankees out there.
Thank you.
F around and find out.
Find out. Yeah. Amen. No, and I will say too, like, when it comes to like small batch stuff and whatever, like we've been around long enough too, where like we've had some stinkers and playing around with stuff and whatever, but definitely like Cory and all the rest of it, like has a good understanding of like where the beer is going to end up, even like when we write the recipe, it's like already kind of there basically. Again, it's like the way I describe it is like cooking. So like if you have an understanding of like what peppers taste like and what onions taste like and what sausage tastes like, so you can make a sausage, pepper, and onions pretty well, even if you haven't like used that particular sausage before, those particular onions or whatever.
Right.
So you're the recipe design is kind of built in based on your familiarity with the ingredients that are going into it. But yeah, getting back to the the tap lists and experimentation and stuff like that is definitely something we've garnered some reputation for, playing around with stuff and being weird, and I think the consumers enjoy that as well, because again, like if you go to the same place and get the same X and Y and Z all the time, it's not as exciting and fun. So
I will tell you, if you ever need to scratch your itch, we would love a banana bread beer.
Oh, jeez.
we've done some banana beer.
Yeah.
We have done. Yeah.
What season do you do them in?
There's no season
me.
for that.
Yeah, what's the banana?
That's we dropped the banana. Just put that in there.
You don't like it
In
doesn't
New
make it wrong.
In New England, there is no banana season.
So
all right, so number one, that's the name of the beer. Banana season. And it's gonna be you guys on the front of the label.
I'm great.
Would be
Yeah.
so good. Because he hates fruity beers.
so yeah. Kyle and I discovered that our families have been vacationing in the same, like 2 towns over in Maine for ages. And the first time we got to go there was late in the season when everything's kind of closing down. And we went to one of these, hole in the wall diners. There are a lot of places in Maine, like these smaller towns will have. That's the plumbing. Anyway, they'll have these, like it's a diner, but it's also a convenience store,
Yeah.
And we went into one place. The guy was literally cleaning everything out for the season because they close around Columbus Day weekend. And there was like maybe 4 or 5 cases of beer left in the fridge. And this one buys, let's get this banana bread beer.
My new favorite.
The
That's
Wells-
gotta be
Wells
awful.
banana bread.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
yellow
yeah.
can.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a reason why it's there at the end of the season.
Yeah, it was waiting for me. This is the same place that you
Around
tried
Columbus
on.
Day
The guy.
weekend is what you're telling me.
So now the banana bread beer is like a staple in his fridge here in Connecticut and in Maine.
Wow.
It's like all the time.
The banana spoke to him that day.
Yeah.
I'm a big banana guy. Banana cream pie, banana bread, banana
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah, we actually did a banana cream pie beer at our old location. It's been that long since the last time we did, and it was pretty well liked.
That's true.
So yeah, it's definitely worth bringing back. We also did peanut butter banana stout.
Now what?
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
Oh,
now you got my
okay.
attention.
Okay.
Hey, you can't drink that. It has fruit in it.
No. Is banana fruit? Should we look that up?
Oh, jeez. It started
It's
a
a
great
fruit, but it
debate.
has protein. It's like an avocado.
You learned it today, folks.
No, to me, even like a garnish in like a rum and coke. I don't like the lime. I don't like a lot of the fruit. Like
Yeah.
especially when something is just a hint of a fruit, I'm like, oh, that just ruins it for me. I don't know why. So, but the, banana cream pie, I love.
So when
pie,
did you?
so-
What season did
And
you
then
release the
peanut
banana
butter.
cream pie?
It was a while ago.
You don't have a log of it.
I do. It's just not with me.
This is not a Dear Diary podcast.
Yeah, I would guess it was probably sometime in the summer. But yeah, and I'm just guessing.
It definitely wasn't in the winter. I know it was like it was either
Spring or summer.
summer.
Yeah,
Or
late
winter
summer.
or fall. Yeah.
somewhere in that range, give or take.
Between December and January of 2 different years.
Give or take 5 to 10 years.
So do you guys do like releases like that cotton candy? Do you try and do several a year or one a season? Or are you just like when you feel like you want to try and do something, you do it?
Yeah, I mean, for like new beers, it's just we use our small batch system
Yeah.
to pioneer new beers, and those beers tend to go relatively quick because they're smaller in size, and so that's our place to experiment, and it just depends on how quickly those particular beers sell. But yeah, I mean, we do seasonally. We approach our brewing schedule seasonally too. Like our most popular seasonal beer is our Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
By quite a long shot.
A mile.
Yeah.
And so that's when we have permanent markered into the calendar. But during the winter, so we tend to gravitate a little bit more towards darker beers. So we pioneered this peanut butter whoopie pie back last October.
Yep.
Super good.
And
by
then
the
we
way.
did
Oh,
another.
it's that new?
Yeah.
'Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, we've had it numerous times.
Yeah, and then we brewed another batch of it that came out maybe beginning of February or something like that. So we do like kind of gear our brew schedule more to focus on seasonally appropriate beers. But at the same time too, we like to have a wide variety of stuff. So like just because it's summertime, doesn't mean that there still aren't people that like brown ales or stouts or things like that. So we do have to keep beers like that on tap all the time. But like I said, the small batch system is where we get to experiment and try new things out. And those are the taps that are rotating a little bit more frequently.
Now, if you do like your cotton candy, you do one small batch, you see how successful it is, and then would you do another small batch, or you'd say, okay, it's successful, we'll now brew it like when you wanted to brew it?
It depends, but if it's something that like we're testing out, we want to see like the reaction to, yeah, we'll brew that small batch, and then if it goes well, then we'll probably elevate it to a big batch, and then maybe if we want to like, and that's like a big push for the season, and then maybe if we want to bring it back kind of off season, maybe we'll do another small batch of it. But yeah, it just all depends on.
Do you guys have
A number of
small,
factors.
I don't know what they call them, but the big things that they get brewed in? Do you have smaller ones, or you just put less in it?
Yeah, we have smaller, tanks for that. Yeah. Yep.
It's kind of crazy that you started this whole thing with your home brewing kit, and now he's the one doing the brewing.
It's
Yeah, I ganked it.
There was a period of time where I was brewing, but one of the nice things, we fell into our more natural roles.
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah,
like
you
that,
kind of
so
fall into a routine
yeah, and
where Kyla does like 90% of the work and I'm the host.
He just collects 90%
yeah,
of the money.
Yeah, the money.
90% for me. And,
Wait, you collect money?
No.
hey, he's making $200K a year on this podcast. You didn't know?
Can't you tell by my attire?
I got the donate here button like 10 times this morning.
That's a Gucci flannel.
That's right. This isn't off the rack.
Custom made. But no, it is wild, to think about. Yeah, especially 10 years. Like it's been crazy to think about. So, but
10 years. That's awesome, though. That keeping going and making a decent living, at least. I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
Although-
more or less.
I mean, he can
Sometimes
afford to
less,
go to Planet
sometimes
Fitness.
more.
What you really need to say is you don't look old enough to for 10 years.
Well, here,
Oh, we're starting on the complimenting thing. Now he's
Trying to
fishing
listen.
for them.
I'm fishing
It's
now.
been long enough.
I'm desperate.
That was it. Yeah.
I will say the first time I had the peanut butter whoopie pie stout, Rena Mason was on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
For
Oh, nice.
Tongue City Revival.
Yeah.
And I think she's Tongue City Studios now. So I'll just throw that
Yeah.
plug out there that she was the one that brought
Oh, that's
she
awesome.
brought that and Moves here that night. And,
Awesome.
Oh, that's great.
I fell in love with the peanut butter whoopie pie.
Yeah.
And that's like basically a staple now.
Yeah, Rena's great. We've been working with her for, I don't know, 10 years. She actually opened her original shop right around the same time that we
Yeah,
opened.
it was.
Yeah, she was
maybe
saying-
just a little bit before us, actually, on Center Street, and then she moved to Main Street. And but yeah, we actually have an event this week coming up with her.
Nice.
If I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
scratch on the table. We got another plug
Wednesday,
there, baby.
another
Wednesday.
Another plug. Hey,
What-
Rena, what's up? What is she? What are we doing with her this week? She's flight boards, flight paddles, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's flight.
Yeah.
Painting them.
I should know.
Yeah, yeah.
I should know because
Yeah.
I just made
For
a post
any
yesterday.
painting and partying, call Rena up.
Yeah,
She's,
yeah. And she does classes with kids, and
Yeah.
she's
Paint your own flight night.
yeah, super talented.
Yeah, she's
super
amazing.
talented individual. Yeah, so she introduced me to the peanut butter whoopie pie,
Nice.
and I just that's one of my favorite beers for sure. So awesome. Your next event's Wednesday. Is it sold out? Is there?
The tickets
Oh.
are still available, but no, we're gonna.
How big's your staff? That was one thing I wanted to ask. Like, how many employees do you guys have? Is it just two of yous? No.
No, it's pretty low right now. We have what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 staff right now. I think.
Oh, that's quite an
Yeah, 5 staff.
operation for
plus
5
us
staff.
and one other owner operator.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So effectively
That-
like 8 people.
Yeah.
Because we're all
Yeah.
all there all the time basically. So, but no, we spent some time beforehand trying to be cognizant and have a plan for keeping staffing is always the highest expense. So
Right.
trying to keep it mitigated as much as we possibly can. So, and we're also happy with our staff. I mean, like they dealing with us and also with the customers and stuff like that. Like, You know, we bartended for I don't know how many years at the old spot because we were like everything basically, and it's an interesting prospect having to
I'm
bartend
sure.
basically.
Yeah.
So
Any vessel where you're dealing with alcohol consumption and having a business that is running while you're not even there, I mean, that's just huge. So you got to have a good staff for that, I would imagine, as somebody who's been through a bartending course, and I did security at Mohegan Sun, and I'm alcohol consumer as well. Like, I get it. It's a wild, just a wild industry to work in on some nights for sure.
yeah, and it happens. I mean, like we were drawn into the industry. I think a lot because, like, when you produce something and, like you were just saying about the peanut butter whoopie pie stout, we whenever we make something like that, and have that reaction, like it's a really viscerally positive experience for us.
Yeah.
To,
Good.
same thing with like, you cook something really nice and somebody eats it and they're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. It's funny too because there's been all these other like cascading elements of our lives too that have been kind of a byproduct of some of that stuff too, though, because we got into it. So like, yeah, again, like bartending, like, I don't know. I know when we were, chatting about this kind of stuff many years ago, we were just like, you were thinking about like, what kind of beers are we going to produce and this and that and the other thing. And like, at least for me, I wasn't thinking like, oh, am I going to have to deal with a weirdo at 10 p.m. at night that shows up with his...
Or 3 p.m. in the afternoon and falling asleep at the bar.
and tried to pay with Swedish fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but come on, Ed, you can't buy a story like that.
That's very true.
That's awesome.
Sorry, buddy. That's not an available currency right now.
Although Jay
Swedish fish.
Peterman bought stories from Kramer, going back to the Kramer thing.
Yeah, right. That's true.
You can buy some stories if you want, I got them for sale, is what I'm saying.
Actively on the market.
'Cause you're on a podcast, you're on a storytelling podcast. I'll sell anything.
So when we start
I
seeing,
heard that about you.
so when we start seeing Corey Smith as one of the either executive producers or writers for the show, and it'll start having a scroll at the end of the show. We'll know what happened.
Well, I don't know if you guys it wasn't last week. Adam from Chubby Dog was on. So he said he'd hold
Week before last.
your juice box any day. So I don't know if you know, he's gonna be on Main Street in Danielson.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be serving alcohol there too.
Yeah.
At that one. So
Which we're really excited for too, because I mean, one of the things that we started off in Danielson, and we were always big champions of downtown Danielson. I remember like one of the first times I went on Winnie Radio, Gary O surprised, and actually Rena. Speaking of Rena was there.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of us like small business owners are opening up in downtown Danielson, and like he just threw this thing. He's like, hey, by the way, like we're opening up to like to callers and stuff like that. And we're like, what? Like, what do you mean? And one of the first callers was like, when do you guys think it's going to be safe for me to go to downtown Danielson where I don't have to have my gun because I'm so scared of the safety and all the rest of it?
Jeez.
Like, oh man, like
How about today? Maybe yesterday. Or,
and so like, yeah,
Come
just yeah, lesson also in like business ownership, right? Like you have to like prepare for answering a question like that. But no, and as a result, even from that point and before and after, we've been big proponents of downtown Danielson. Like it's tons of history. Curtain capital of the world. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. It's literally like 90% of the curtains that were produced in the world came
a
out
lot
of
of
Danielson,
fabric in this area came out of this
really cool history.
textile.
All the rest of it. But yeah, and it's had its issues for a long time, and we were really kind of proud to be in downtown Danielson and like kind of start there and get our feet wet with business and all the rest of it. And so in some ways, I always felt a little bit bad because like we're always like, we're gonna be here in Danielson, we're gonna like stick it out, and then we had this opportunity of the building open, and we're like, bye, like see you later, we're going to Dayville, like But we're happy that the Burroughs Brewing Company took over after us at that location. And also, I think it's been really kind of fun for us to see that other businesses are excited to move into downtown and kind of continue the the legacy in some ways of what we were part of initially was with Rena and some of these other places too,
Yeah.
that kind of, put in the legwork and gave people a reason to come to downtown New York Pizza, obviously being part of that as well, amongst like, the myriad of other businesses that could spend the rest of the night talking about. But yeah, I'm super happy that Adam's moving down to Danielson. There's a couple of other businesses that are opening in
Yeah,
downtown.
Two Dogs Coffee.
Two Dogs Coffee. Yeah, I spoke to them on the phone the other day. We're excited about them as well. Just really exciting stuff, I think, across the board. To have, these.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Gary O. I mean, shout out to Gary O. He's amazing. Did a lot to revitalize Putnam, and that success has been infectious, and I think a lot of the towns are taking suit around here, or following suit, following suit, not
got
taking
it.
suit.
You did it.
Nailed
We don't take
But
suits.
now you make up phrases. So words and phrases.
Festering suit.
We've transitioned from word of the day to the makeup word of the day or something.
We're just dribbling on now. Yeah, and Main Street in Danielson and all the main streets around. I just think as much as we can do for each other. I know you guys Rena mentioned the story about you guys came with a pickup truck and helped her move from one location to another. Like, that's how the small business community is. That's a huge example. And same with Gary O. Small business owner with the radio. And he's just done, countless things for this whole community from, I would say all of Windham County, and surrounding areas. And it's really awesome to see. Especially, I grew up heavily influenced by the baby boomer generation, where my great uncle had 14 kids. And one of them worked for me when I was a carpenter for hire, and he used to talk about it, and it would just about bring a tear to his eye about how Main Street in Danielson was the premier main street to be.
Yeah.
Every day there would be vendors lined up along the street. There would just be people everywhere crossing, Main Street and getting their, daily, weekly, monthly needs with, all the different small businesses that were just thriving. It was like going to a mall, he said. You just watch people cross the street and, just so busy and bustling. And then it like had a phase where it wasn't like that, and he was having, whenever he talked about it, he would have like almost trouble talking about it. And,
Yeah, it's tough to see.
and now to see these, at one point Putnam was losing their school was losing accreditation. So it's like now to see like this is like, as a realtor, I see these towns are like people want to move there, So it's been awesome, and I think it's a large, I don't know what the right word for it is, but it's because
You
of
won't have it.
business owners like you, So,
Well, it's part of the reason why we wanted to like stay here. So one of the things that when we started out, we had some conversations about like, where do we want to be? Why is it that we want to be at that location? All the rest of that kind of stuff. And, quite frankly, like the metrics, especially for breweries, make a lot of sense being in urban areas.
right.
That's you have a lot of foot traffic. You have a lot of just people, consumers that will be part of it. But I know that was like one of our big kind of discussions was like, we're from here, we want to be part of this. Let's because especially I know like we used to complain in high school and stuff like that about like, it's called the quiet corner for a reason. Like it's silent up here in a lot of ways, and so like let's we can complain about it or become part of the solution.
Part of the solution, yeah.
And do something that will give people a reason to come visit here and be part of the community and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
there's definitely an aspect of that for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't always realize or consider or just take for granted a huge amount of risk a small business owner will take in any location, just being a small business owner and not, clocking in and out or whatever other path they take in a career. To go out on your own is a huge risk and a huge consideration. And, I I try to remind myself to always be grateful for that, and grateful for guys like you that, made something out of nothing, out of a home beer kit, and that's great. And
Well,
can't
thank you.
get on the mountain or hilltop and shout it loud enough, honestly, I feel. So
Well, thank you so much. Those very kind words. And we're back to compliment corner. I'm glad that we've come full circle. No, but it's true. I mean, it's also, it's one of the really cool things about our area too that we've been talking about, I think, a little bit more recently is that, being part of this community is pretty awesome. Being here, talking to you guys and all the rest of it. Like this has been a ton of fun so far and all the rest of it too. Like, we get kind of like cloistered in our little bubbles and worry about whatever else like that. And it's a great thing to see that we have a larger community too that's excited to learn about it.
Right.
Like all the viewers that are listening now or later or whatever else like that.
yeah.
Thanks for letting us ramble, I guess. But it's cool. It's a humbling thing in some ways, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was like what I was talking about earlier about like the humbling aspects of like starting a business. Like I think when we both started, like we were thinking about random other things as opposed to the crazy things. Like a lot of our friends, close friends, we would never have met outside
Right.
of opening
Yeah.
a brewery.
Yeah. The people you meet.
Even like my fiance, for example, like she basically kept showing up at the bar and like was harassing me and like, basically saying, because I kept saying like, oh, I don't want to like date like a customer because I don't want to be like a creep, basically.
Right.
And she's like, no, I'm very interested in you and I want this to be your thing. She's very blunt about it, which is one of the reasons.
Oh, good. I had to
love her
stalk
so
my
much.
wife to get to her.
We know.
This is a common recurrence on this show. Common topic of the show.
If he could, some 20 years ago, I had to ask her out at least twice.
If you could untie her from the other guy's place and just let her speak about it, that'd be great.
Hey, we had a non-disclosure.
Oh, man. I'm out. No. That's awesome.
The shamelessness just keeps coming out. It's perfect.
I bring out the worst in everybody.
It's authentic.
It's authentic. It comes from the bone.
Yeah, the rope burns are authentic.
Those are from you.
Working for your title.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of.
Yeah, this has been a lucrative experience.
Yeah, we just gotta look back at the tape, and we're just gonna be, we call it the
That's awesome.
community workbench series.
We got one for each season.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, you guys are, always welcome here. Been a ton of fun, and I wish you all the success in the world as a brewery. And you got anything else, or guys?
I don't know. I think how many more plugs do I have?
Many as you want.
Yeah, throw your next
Do
2,
it,
3
do
events
it.
in.
Well, we already talked about them, but on Wednesday we have the paint a paddleboard or flight board with Rena from Tunk City.
Friday we have Tom Abbott live music.
Oh, nice.
6
Yep.
to 9.
Beautiful.
Yeah, going a little unchronological, but every Thursday we have trivia starting at 7.
Yeah.
This Saturday we have our St. Patty's Day party, green beer, kitty bombs, Irish, what have you.
Nice.
Rubens, that was
Reuben.
Yeah.
Rubens, yeah. And then like the real big plug is like if you need catering for any event, weddings, or just like birthday parties, if you want to host an event at our place, like
Yeah, you guys rent
Talk
the
to
room
us.
there
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. So.
yeah, talk to us about that because that's something that I don't think enough people know that we do.
And just so everybody knows, that's 1001 Hartford
Yeah.
Pike, Dayville, Connecticut, 06241. And their phone number is 860-207-5295.
That is correct.
Awesome. All right. The Community Workbench podcast family wants to remind everyone of our Valentine's Day season Spread the Love food drive campaign. If you can, consider donating foods and other goods. Thanks for watching, everybody. This next Monday, we have a March Madness treat for you. Join us on Monday, March 18th at 6 p.m. when we interview Ben Wakely and Christian Sarantopoulos. They are business owners who are basketball referees in their spare time. They ref out of a nonprofit called the IAABO, Northeastern Board number 35. They're certified refs, basketball officials, servicing all of Windham and Tolland County, Connecticut. As always, I'll remind everybody to buy local, hire local, dine local, volunteer local, donate local, and drink locally. Have great days, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.